Whether it's Bruce Lee entertaining millions with nail-biting action film or frontline healthcare workers sacrificing their safety in the midst of a pandemic, the public servants of Hong Kong have come in many shapes and sizes. Everyone has an obligation to apply their unique gifts to solve their time's biggest challenges. Build for Good is equipped with the right people, right expertise, and right resources to be a titan of public service in mitigating the housing crisis, but only when paired with the right strategy. By renewing brownfield spaces and retooling low occupancy hotels, Build for Good can create over 3,000 homes for the people of Hong Kong while converting 380 hectares of wasted space. Before we dive into the solutions, it's important to understand Hong Kong's unique housing crisis. It takes residents over 20 years' salary to purchase a home, which has forced the people of Hong Kong into smaller and smaller, unlivable cage homes the size of coffins. This has made Hong Kong rank the world's most unlivable city 11 times in a row. The housing crisis is largely due to a supply shortage, as Hong Kong's mountainous terrain and complex leasing standards have drastically limited residential land to just over 7% of total land area. Alleviating the housing crisis means increasing the supply of residential land, which fortunately aligns with John Lee's announcement in May to the South China Morning Post that he would make licensing residential land significantly easier, which would come with reduced premiums to relicense. As an arm of New World Developments, Build for Good has ample resources and the correct experience and expertise to develop sustainable projects. On top of the dry powder available, they also have a deep understanding of Hong Kong's real estate market, which will prove indispensable. Most importantly, we must acknowledge that Build for Good is a not-for-profit housing enterprise and must find its niche while collaborating with government body and NGOs, and should take an advantage of favorable regulations when they come to ease compliance hurdles. So, when crafting our solution, we must ask, how can Build for Good leverage New World Development's development expertise to mitigate Hong Kong's rent crisis? To answer this question, we must look at those worst affected. I'd like to introduce you to Alvin, a senior citizen of Sham Shui Po on the 6-year waitlist for public housing. There is a clear mismatch between Alvin's needs and current assistance. Alvin needs quick transportation to his 2 jobs, but is only offered housing in the relatively remote Lantau Island. His neighborhood in Lantau is also poorly developed, which prevents him from accessing other types of necessary medical assistance. Although Alvin's needs are unmet now, Build for Good has an opportunity to bridge these gaps. Now that we understand Alvin cares most about accessible and developed neighborhoods, we can trim down Hong Kong to desirable zones. Restricting the map to a 30-minute journey to Kowloon cuts most areas off the path of an MTR line. So most of Lantau, Southern Hong Kong Island, Sai Kung, and the Northern New Territories. Next, we must consider places with very active private developments, as they provide Alvin with better support, but also tend to have more favorable regulations and requirements, which is huge for Build for Good. For example, this golden triangle of sorts we see in the Northwest with Tuen Mun and Yuen Long, we've seen a huge spurt of private development because of drastically cut premiums for residential approval. This makes for more livable neighborhoods for buyers and easier construction, and oftentimes cheaper for sellers like Build for Good. In fact, Build for Good developed the Parkville in Tuen Mun, which was wildly successful and relatively frictionless compared to building in the city. However, there are still more opportunities in the area, which we will discuss in our Renew strategy. Any solution that doesn't directly capitalize on Build for Good's expertise limits the scope of our impact. For example, Build for Good is a little less versed in buyer side assistance and is best to leave that to governments and NGOs. Lower density units reduces the amount of people we can house and adds compliance risk because we have to add more acreage to house less people. Our solutions are comparatively better because they play to Build for Good's expertise while still making for very feasible solutions that have potential for astronomical impact.
So let's look how we can renew old pieces of land and turn them into affordable housing units for Hong Kong residents. We believe that New World Development should target brownfields. Brownfields are any pieces of land that were previously used, commonly used for industrial purposes, and are not currently in use. We believe that we should be converting these plots of lands into sustainable housing for Hong Kong residents. 80% of Hong Kong residents in a nonprofit study said that they believe that these pieces of land should be priority options when looking where to build. Now, what are some of the other benefits of using these sites? Well, we can improve sustainability by getting rid of harmful materials that are sometimes left by the previous owners and just overall reduce industrial blight by putting in new buildings. This also protects greenfields as we're using these previously developed plots of land and then protecting Hong Kong's beautiful nature reserves and sceneries. Other benefits are the fact that we can increase property values, which will benefit adjacent properties. It also means that some areas will also benefit from additional development because of these properties. And we believe that many other types of developments may come in after they see new world development developing projects here. Now, most of these areas are inside the new territories. This is a gray area as it's connected by a large set of highways and the MTRs. Now, some may say that this isn't enough land. However, a Greenpeace study has said that there's actually a lot of hidden brownfield sites that the government has missed. This means that if you look at the map below, the brownfield sites that are orange are ones that weren't found by the government, and only the blue ones are the ones that they had marked. This means that there's potential for a lot of missed opportunity here that we believe that New World development should capitalize on to be able to really find pieces of land that can be built into homes for everybody. For example, if 1/2 of the 300 acres that were found by Greenpeace studies were developed, this could create 95,000 units, which is extremely significant, as one of the biggest questions in the Hong Kong housing crisis is where do we build? And clearly here's a great opportunity to turn pieces of land that are potentially polluting the environment into affordable housing for Hong Kong residents.
Our second strategy, Retool, focuses on repurposing vacant and decrepit hotels into ownable Hong Kong real estate. So let's take a look at two main trends in the Hong Kong market right now. There's been a huge increase in vacancy rates as a result of the fifth wave of COVID-19 regulations in early 2022. There's also been a neglection of hotels in relief stimuli provided by the government. As a result of these two factors, there has been a 30% reduction in hotel sale prices. As a result, we believe that hotels are the prime real estate to build and create new affordable living in Hong Kong. So converting hotels to affordable apartments is a pretty simple 4-step process. Firstly, we have the acquisition. Here, our objective is to identify free hotels to convert into small apartments. Secondly, there's going to be government onboarding. It is vital that we understand and are compliant with the external regulation in Hong Kong's strict legislative environment. Thirdly, there is the actual conversion process itself. And here we must provide high quality, affordable apartments because it is core to Build for Good's mission to create housing that is livable and a high quality of living, not just a place for people to dwell. Finally, there is a sale to low-income customers. Here we would like to prioritize waiting list and cage home residents. So in terms of the 3 main hotels, we have identified the Shamrock Hotel. This is shut down and for sale and has 160 rooms. There is also the Arca Hotel with 25% occupancy, dropping from a 98% occupancy in 2020. And there's a Hotel Paddington, also shut down with 76 rooms. New World should target conversion in these 3 hotels because of these low occupancy rates and high room volume. Now, if we look at the actual conversion process itself, we're going to look at 2 main examples from Hong Kong. But the first being the Harbour Plaza Resort City, which converted 1,000 rooms to 5,000, and Horizon Suites that converted 200 rooms to 768 micro apartments. Now, if we look at this, this has resulted in, from the core room volume, 4 to 5 times the amount of living units. So with a simple 200K cost per unit, we're resulting in 4 to 5 times the amount of living spaces. So if we look at the legislation that we need to follow, there are 3 main requirements. The first being the renegotiation of the HMA. This is simply a discussion with the hotel owner on whether they would like to continue on as the building manager or move with the hotel operator on as the sale goes through. Secondly, there's the zoning plans. Although this might seem difficult at first, the Hong Kong government is becoming increasingly favorable to hotel-to-home conversion properties and has been giving out OZPs within 6 months, as we have seen from the past 2 examples that have happened in Hong Kong in the past year. Finally, there's the licensing conversion, where New World will need to suspend the hotel license that is currently in operation and reapply for a homeowner's license instead. Now, let's look at it from Alvin's point of view, our favorite Hong Kong grandpa. So he will need to apply through New World's hotel website. And we think there needs to be a middleman, an NGO such as Impact HK, that provides housing assistance to low-income residents who may not be able to surf online or read or fill out difficult official documentation such as that will be needed. He will be ranked based on his age, income, and waiting list status. And since he is a senior citizen, low income, and been on the waiting list for 6 years, he will be a high priority candidate. Secondly, in the acquisition itself, there will be 2 main helpers. Firstly, New World itself, with its subsidized housing scheme, Proposal 1, will aid the acquisition. Secondly, the Hong Kong government is actually subsidizing people who are buying hotel conversion properties. So he will be receiving help from both stakeholders. Finally, we want this to be a place for Alvin to live and to own this small flat. Thus, the scheme aims to promote long-term home ownership in Hong Kong. So will this work? Let's take a quick look at California. So California's Home Key program involved the state purchasing 94 struggling hotels during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Since then, it has created over 6,000 living units and housed over 8,000 new residents. As a result, we believe that this kind of program will be extremely effective in Hong Kong and impactful towards New World's mission of creating housing for the unaffordable in Hong Kong.
Okay, so how does the implementation timeline look like for our proposals? Well, for renewing the brownfields, we estimated that it would take 9 months to a year between leasing the land and the beginning of construction. Construction time is affected by various factors such as inclement weather, site constraints, labor supply, etc. We estimated that it would take 9 months to a year to complete 1,000 quality units. Regarding the retool proposal, buying the hotel takes around 2 to 3 months, but that's not the only thing to take into consideration. As Matilda mentioned, New World will need to change the licensing from hotel to residential, alongside jumping additional legal barriers before any construction can begin. We estimated that this process would take from 6 to 9 months. After the approval, remodeling and rollout come around and the newly refurnished apartments go into the market. All in all, the whole process for both proposals would take around 2 years. This may seem too ambitious in the time frame, but currently the Hong Kong government is expediting construction programs to get houses into the market as soon as possible. For instance, the Hong Kong Housing Authority recently said that they will adopt a new design and build procurement model to fasten the construction of units. With this new system, they estimate that construction time can be shortened by about 2 to 4 months. This project, the first project of this program, is actually going to be finished this month, with 4,330 flats being rolled out after 3 months of construction. Hence, with the support of the Hong Kong government, completing both proposals in 2 years seems each year more feasible. Moving on to our cost, in our renew proposal, leasing the land and the construction of the houses are the 2 main costs. In this case, where we want to build 1,000 units on 2 hectares of land, the total cost would be 6.3 billion Hong Kong dollars. In the retool proposal, acquiring the 3 hotels and converting the 417 rooms into 2,085 apartment units will require an investment of approximately 5.34 billion Hong Kong dollars. With both of our proposals, we expect by the end of 2024 to add 3,085 affordable apartments into the Hong Kong market to accommodate thousands of Hong Kong residents in need. Additionally, these new units will restore millions of square feet from unused brownfields. Its successful New World development should invest heavily in acquiring more of these unused brownfields areas and transforming them into units to house even more people. We consider some risks and how to mitigate them. In the case that not a lot of people migrate to these new apartments, we would increase our marketing budget to raise awareness about the affordability and quality of these new units. If we face difficulties negotiating the hotels, we would leverage New World Development's huge network and resources to better our position and increase our chances of making a deal. And lastly, if our proposals run over budget, we will mitigate this by applying to government grants to continue construction and finish on schedule. In closing, with New World's right resources, expertise, people, and now right strategy, Build for Good is poised to make a meaningful impact on Hong Kong's residential space and land to create a better future for all. Thank you for your time.